Join me as we do a garden tour here in late October at the Horticulture Geek Garden. Hey there YouTube, and welcome back to Horticulture Geek. I'm Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today here on the channel. And we're starting out this garden tour here just on the back porch because I wanted to let you guys know a few things. I have not had a lot of time to work in the garden for this growing season, which some of my regular subscribers will have noticed. There just hasn't been a lot of videos this summer. And that's just because my time and attention has had to be elsewhere, and that's okay. The garden is established. It has been rocking and rolling all season long. I have thrown up a few videos here and there, but before frost hits and things really fade away for the winter season, I wanted to get this garden tour in there just to give you guys a look of where things are at right now at the end of October. We are about a week out from Halloween, so November is just around the corner, and we have already started getting some very cool nights here in central Arkansas. I am in zone 7B, 8A, central Arkansas, right outside of Little Rock. We have not had a freeze yet. We have not had a frost yet, but we have been very close a couple of nights. But there are still some things out here in the garden that are looking absolutely beautiful. And so I wanted to do this garden tour to kind of wrap up this growing season and show you guys where we're at. The other caveat I want to make is that I have not been pulling weeds. And so as we do this garden tour, you're going to notice a lot of weeds. So let me kind of be your example out there. It's okay sometimes if you are an active person, you have lots of things going on in your life, don't worry about the garden. You can get to it. So the weeds that are here, I will eventually get under control. But there are some parts of the garden that just do look a little messy. And that's just because I just purely have not had the time to tackle it and deal with it. And the other issue that I'm having in my garden is I have nutsedge. Nutsedge is notoriously difficult to eradicate. I've tried smothering, I've pulled and I've pulled and I've pulled, and I'm to the point where I potentially am going to have to try chemical treatments to eradicate the nutsedge out of my garden. The problem with that, the problem with any chemical herbicides, is that if you're not very careful, you can do a lot of harm to a garden. And that's why I've hesitated. And specifically with nutsedge grows, it's like a grass. If you don't know what nutsedge is, bless you, you're lucky. But it looks like little sprigs of grass growing up all through the garden. It does that through underground rhizomes that it shoots out, bulbs and rhizomes that it shoots out through the ground, okay? The problem with chemical treatments is that they're not specific to just nutsedge. So when you get a product labeled nutsedge killer, it will kill anything that's rhizome or bulb. So it's going to kill irises, daffodils, tulips, alliums. You've got to be very careful with it. So I am going to have to very carefully and selectively try to start dealing with my nutsedge problem. And there's one section in particular that I'm waiting, because it is my vegetable section where I plant a lot of my vegetables, which you'll see when we do this tour. I'm just kind of at the point where I've said, okay, just let the nutsedge grow. I've got a few things in the garden there that are honestly ready to be pulled, and then I can deal with that whole section in a chunk. So there's things like that that you will see as we walk through the garden today. But just overlook the ugly, focus on the pretty. That's what I do. And hopefully we will have a nice little chat and walk through the garden today. So we will start this tour in the front yard, and I'll give you an update on our photo booth. It's doing great. The mums are fully bloomed out. They're beautiful. They're holding color. The supertunias and things I planted at the front door, flower beds at the beginning of the season, have faded. I've pulled those, and we're just all set up for Halloween out there. So we'll just start there. As you know, I live on a busy street. If you're familiar with my channel, I won't do a lot of talking out there. I'll just kind of walk you through, let you see what things are looking like. And then we'll come back here and actually walk through the main garden in the backyard. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, so we're gonna start right here at the gate to the backyard. These pots are fizzling out fast. They are ready for a switch out. The Supertunia Vista Bubblegum did phenomenal this summer. And the verbena, this is the Superbena, was wonderful. They were at one point was just a sea of color. They're fizzled out. The wall planters did great. The Dichondra Silver Falls, as you can see in all three pots, is just wonderful. And then they were top planted with vincas. Again, these things just bloomed and bloomed and bloomed and didn't stop blooming all summer. And now they're just fizzling out. We're at the end. So all of this is ready for a switch out. And then when we pan right through here, you can see a buddleia, a butterfly bush, some phlox. I had a water leak, and so I had to have some work done here. I had 3 azaleas here. Those had to come out. So there was some change up there. Now then, let me just got some fall pumpkins there for you. And we're just gonna walk around and look at the other flower beds here. The front door, pumpkins, a fun mat. Okay, the coleus have been here all summer long. I specifically choose a coleus that provides lots of deep impact color for the year, but then it's also in the reds and orange tones. I love doing this so that it is perfectly situated to be the centerpiece for the fall plant display. So you can see that on each side. Lantana's still doing great. If you've been with me for a while, you know that these beds were completely covered, like I said earlier, in supertunias. Those have all been pulled out. They were just completely done. And then we just continue on to there. And then right out here in the front, the mailbox. And then here we have the fall display, still looking great. You can see the mums are fully bloomed out. This one is starting to fade, so, but it still looks good. All right, let's go head to the backyard and take a look back there. All right, so here we are in the back garden finally, and you can see the garden still has tons of color, pretty things going on. And I wanted to start right here, kind of at the bottom of the garden, to show you my dahlia. So if we'll come right here and look, this dahlia, or dahlia, however you want to say it, this is one plant that has been planted in this spot. This is its 3rd year in this spot. I have not dug it up. I have not divided the tubers. I have not thinned it. And it has bloomed prolifically all summer. All right, so this is here. This is ready for a divide, but we'll get there. The pots in front of the shed are still looking pretty good. I did lose one of the Calibracoas there, but the one is still looking good. All right, we'll go up this way now. This hibiscus currently does not have any flowers on it, but this thing, again, has bloomed and bloomed and bloomed all summer long. And it looks really good this season. I've got cosmos planted through here. I had sunflowers planted through here. So these sunflowers are done for the season. This double cosmos right here is really pretty. And again, you can see this is a bed that I was talking about earlier. It's full of weeds. It's got the nut sedge in it. So that needs to be dealt with. But that nut sedge just runs all through the ground, and it's so hard to get rid of. Our peach tree, it has done great this summer as well. It has put on a lot of growth. And so then the spring, when it's time to prune this thing, he will be ready for a good pruning. So we're just gonna kind of walk around and look at things, and not necessarily point out every specific plant, but I did want to look at these right here. These have done absolutely wonderful this year. I love this. And I keep the tag here. So this is the Luscious Grape by Proven Winners, Lantana. Absolutely beautiful. Has just performed wonderful. I've got this Ageratum here, looking good still. The Collias in the hanging baskets, I think that has done really good this year. It provided a lot of texture up off the ground, and it adds in a little bit of privacy from the neighbors. So that's done really well there as well. Hit pause. So you can see all the different textures going on. Some coleus planted on the ground here. There's our Japanese maple in the pot there. Lots of hostas. Lots of shade stuff. The little lime hydrangea right there. Blooms are faded now, but did great this year. Some more coleus. So in the shade garden, you know, you don't have a lot of opportunities for flowers. Now I've got some begonias in here. I had some impatiens over here, but for the most part, I'm using different leaf structures for different colors and textures to really bring interest to this shady area. So I've got the brownie reds with the green rims. I've got the golds with the red streaks on the coleus. I've got blue hostas, green hostas, hostas with white tips, big leaf hostas, ferns, the hydrangeas, the holly ferns. So we're just layering in the texture and the color through the usage of all these plants. I'm gonna try not to move very fast. So back here behind this basket of impatiens, you can see my ligularia, or my tractor seat plant. He has really settled in quite nicely this year and put on a lot of growth. It is looking really pretty back here, and it spills out all around this basket for this impatiens. Again, it's glossy, it's thick, another texture for the shade garden. This rose right here, and I do actually have a fresh bloom on it, if we can get back there to see it. Pull this up for you. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, and there's a little bug in there. That's okay. All All right, the elephant ears, again, we started having cool nights, like I said, so they're starting to fade and get some fall color on them. And then this right here is milkweed. This has been a challenge this year because it has absolutely taken over. It is a weed, it is milkweed. So that's what it does. It is an invasive species, but it is easily controlled. I have come through this patch several times this season, and I have thinned it out and tried to keep it in check. But I have let it bulk up, and let me try to get a different angle here for you and show you the flowers. It actually is pretty. It has lots of good color on it. And there's a honeybee right there. But this is the primary feeding source for the monarch butterfly caterpillars. And these flowers are a primary feeding source for the monarch butterfly itself. And monarch butterflies, if you don't know, have been placed on the endangered species list. So because people are plowing down fields of this stuff, because it is invasive, it is a weed, it does spread, it can look very untidy, and so it's getting harder and harder for monarchs to find these plants to lay their eggs, so that the eggs will then have a food source to grow and get to the stage to cocoon up and to turn into butterflies. So I have let this go, and this is kind of where we're at right now. So as a gardener, you kind of have to make that choice. Am I going to allow something in my garden that may not be the most aesthetically pleasing, but it is super beneficial? And I, for this year, have done that. And I anticipate having this again here next year. I will come through and thin it out and start back with a small patch. And of course, next year it will expand again and I'll thin it out again. But this has been just absolutely covered in all sorts of butterflies, but the monarchs as well. I've seen multiple monarchs on this. I've seen hummingbirds on this, as well as other species. So it has been a valuable food source for the ecosystem here, and I love that. All right, continuing on. I had a lot of coreopsis through here, and I came through earlier and I pulled all of that out. It had browned out, flopped over, it had gotten too much, so that all got pulled out, clean slate. Got some coneflowers in here. Now I'm leaving these dried up coneflowers heads because they're a good food source for birds, so we'll leave those. There's a fresher one down there. You can see the baby milkweeds. So this is what they do. They just pop up baby milkweeds all through here. So I'm at the stage now where obviously all of these baby milkweeds will be pulled out back to the main patch area when I do my clean out. Got a clematis blooming right now. My salvias. I came through at the end of August and pruned these salvia and that salvia back down to the ground. They had gotten huge. They were completely, both of them flopped over the sidewalk for the pool here, and it was time for a rejuvenation prune on those. And luckily salvia is one of those perennials that it bolts up in the spring, it shoots out flowers. Those flowers are very prolific, they stay, but about halfway through the summer, the plant fizzles out. But when you come through and chop it down, it absolutely shoots back out and does a whole second bloom cycle. So I did that this year with these. Behind this salvia here, I have a melon sage. So it's beautiful, it provides lots of color, texture, and it smells wonderful. Very sagey, watermelony fragrance there. One of our hanging baskets on the arbor here. And I do have the grapevine hyacinth or hyacinth bean vine planted on the arbor. If you were with me on the video where we planted these, I planted hyacinth, the moon vine, the purple vine here. And then I also planted a different type of vine on here. The rabbits completely ate the cardinal vine. It was just ate up, nothing left. So we have the hyacinth vine, and it looks great. It did not overtake the whole arbor this year, and that I'm contributing to the rabbits as well. They were starting to munch on this when it was a little bit little, but once its toxicity built up, they kind of started leaving it alone, because this plant does have a level of toxicity that makes it a deer resistant and rabbit resistant and stuff. But, you know, when you layer it in, I've got a Gara right here, that wispy, ethereal look. It just looks really good. So as you can see, the pool has been covered. Here's the other hanging basket. There's that other salvia. Let's get in here on those salvia plants, because wow, how pretty is that? Another Gara in there. An autumn joy sedum. Here's another, this is my urn on a pedestal here. You can't even see the urn. The calibrachoas and those petunias have just expanded. This mass back here is my Zephyrine Druin climbing rose. It has loved life this year and it's just gone nuts. So this will get a heavy prune probably around February. I will have to come through here probably very quickly and just do some maintenance pruning on here, because at this point I can't even get down the pathway to get back in here. But great rose. It's bloomed all summer. Let me turn this way. You can get a look at the garden from this direction. All right. So we have our water fountain going here. A lot of people found the channel with this water fountain video. And for a couple of years, I had comment after comment after comment of, you need to fill that pot in, birds are gonna drown, this, that, and the other. I never once had a bird drown in this fountain. But I did this year revamp this fountain, and I filled it completely with water feature expanding spray foam, so that the pot itself wasn't so heavy. When I had it full of water and rocks, it was just so incredibly heavy. So now it is just completely filled with water feature expanding foam, and then I put a layer of decorative rocks on the top, which aid in that splashing sound, and then as the water cascades over back into the basin. And the birds have actually enjoyed this fountain so much more this year, because now they are able to perch right on the rocks in the water and just play to their heart's content. So it has been very beneficial. Black-eyed Susan patch is faded out, ready to be cut back. Some more purple coneflower. The Mandevilla back there, Mandevilla, however you say that, has just been blooming all summer long. Now that is in a container. That is in a container, and so he is fixing to get a good hose down, wash off, and he's going into the potting shed for the winter, because he is a tropical and must go inside for the winter. This raised bed right here had tomatoes and peppers in it. Again, they're ready. You can see there's a few tomatoes left hanging on that vine, but it's ready to be cleaned out. So I do have a lot of work coming up. This is a Bobo hydrangea right here. I thought I had lost it. I've talked about this in previous videos, and it sprouted back from the root. I noticed I came over here to dig this up a couple months ago and noticed that it was pushing growth from the root ball, and so I let it go, and now I actually have two nice branches. And so next year this plant should take off and fill in this space in front of my cedar here. The magnolia tree we planted right here is doing great. Let me do a slow pan this way and show you the other one we planted. It's kind of back here behind the shed in that corner. I had an okra patch right through there. That's been pulled out. That's why that looks empty. But I've got some pretty things down there too. I've got a rose in that urn, my magnolia down there, and then I had some more coleus planted around the base, and there's a few other small perennials down there. So as you can tell though, things are quickly wrapping up here as we are approaching the end of fall. Winter is coming fast. This rose has got some pretty color on it right now. This is a beautiful shrub rose, a yellow one. This is a pot full of miniature zinnias. These things have just, as zinnias do, bloomed all summer long. This was a mixed variety of seeds. I threw a calibrachoa in there as well. And this pot has just bloomed and bloomed and bloomed all season long. Some lamb's ear right here. If you don't have lamb's ear, especially if you have kids in your garden, you want lamb's ear. It is just the coolest plant to pet and touch. It is soft and velvety, just like a lamb's ear, which is where it gets its name. And then that brings us back to this little patch that is going to get its clean out. So there we have it, guys. There is our garden tour. All right, guys, so that was the garden tour. As I said, there's still lots of pretty things to look out here. There's definitely a lot of work to do. There was a time a few years ago I would have never shot this video. I was just too consumed with the garden has to be perfect. If I'm gonna put it on YouTube, if I'm gonna put it out there for the world to see, the garden has to be perfect. And what I found was that this garden was becoming more than a full-time job. And it is not that for me. I have a full-time job. Mrs. Horticulture Geek has a full-time job. We've got kids activities, we've got other commitments in our lives, church, things like that. And so I had to grow as a gardener to realize that some years you're gonna have big wins and your garden is you're just gonna be on top of it. Some years you're just gonna have to let the garden do what the garden's gonna do and get the other things in your life done. So I hope this video can encourage you out there to let that be your truth as well. Don't let your garden stress you out. Our gardens are to be our refuge, our joy, some pleasure, things that we enjoy doing. So keep doing that and don't let it stress you out. Don't let it overwhelm you. I have seen lots of gardeners just completely burn themselves out with their gardens to the point where they just let them die, walk away, and they're done. So I want to encourage you guys, if you're kind of in that mindset and you're watching my video, I hope my garden is an encouragement to you, because I do have beautiful things. You can see beautiful things. I hope you've enjoyed seeing what I have, how I have my structures laid out, how I have my plants laid out. But I also want you to see that my garden is not perfect. And gardens really are never perfect, and they're never done. Gardening rule 101 for any gardener is that your garden is never done. You're always gonna find a new plant that you wanna put in. You're always gonna have a plant fizzle out that needs to be replaced. You're gonna have a fresh idea that pops in your head, something you wanna tinker with in the garden. So don't let your garden stress you out. Let your garden be your happy place. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, hey, please leave those down below. I would love to see those. I'll respond to them as best as I can. If there's anything in the garden you want more information on, let me know that. I'll be glad to clarify anything I can. Winter is coming. There's still work to be done. Until snow starts falling and the ground starts freezing, we can always get out here and keep on working in the garden. As you can tell, I've got annuals to remove, I've got weeds to pull, and I have some containers that I do want to switch out and get my winter annuals in. I'm now thinking about ornamental cabbages, ornamental kales, pansies. We've got dianthuses here that we use in the wintertime. So I'm thinking about all the things I can do to pretty up containers and pots and getting things put away for the winter that won't survive my climate here. And so you've got those things in your garden as well. There'll be more videos coming out as quickly as I can get them to you. If you've enjoyed today's video, give me that thumbs up and hit that subscription bell so that as I post new videos, they'll pop up in your feed and you'll see what's going on here at the Horticulture Geek Gardens. So like I've said, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Check out more videos later. But until next time, from my garden to yours, I wish you all the best and happy gardening.